Hi, this is Bonnie, and today we are going to be working on a Fairy Hugs card with a little bit of a love theme with Valentine's Day coming up next week. So what we will be using is, this one's called Heart Sparkles. We're going to be using Heart Tree. Whoops, looks like I'm missing my one piece there. And we're going to be using Misty. And we're going to be using I think one piece of this sentiment that is called Be You. And then we're also going to be using Fairy Dictionary. So I'm going to go ahead and get that all together and we'll get started. Okay, I've kind of done this before, some of it, but this is a little bit different from what I have done before every time I do something. This is a little bit of a really thick cardstock. And it's not watercolor paper, but it is thicker cardstock. And I'm going to be using some water and inking. So, let's see, I want to make sure I got both of my ink pads. I do. I'm going to be using worn lipstick. And I'm going to be using spun sugar. And I want to stamp some of these hearts in the background here and make them a little bit blurred. So I want them to be a little bit wet. So I very lightly drew with my pencil the outline of this tree. So I would have some idea of where I wanted to put these hearts, because I want those in the background. So we're going to go ahead and start with the lightest color, so I won't contaminate this as much. And I'm just going to be using a regular acrylic block. And I'm going to spray this just ever so slightly, and I'll probably spray it again. And I'm just going to, like I said, randomly put these around what I've drawn. And this is going to be very light. My paper is going to warp. And it's okay if they don't all show up, but I have to make sure I keep my paper wet as I'm doing this. So I'm going to add just a little bit more water as I come over here. As you can see, I'm just, like I said, it's very light, but it's enough that you can tell that it's in the background. I think I'm going to add one more up here. And then we're going to take a peek just to see how that's going to look. And I really do like that look. But I am going to go ahead and add just a little bit of the worn lipstick to the background as well. Again, I'm going to just mist this up just a tiny bit. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp with my hearts again in a few places. Okay, so this one's a lot darker. I did kind of like it lighter, but we'll just see. And then I'm going to add some more water. Okay. We're going to add some more water because I do want it to be more blurred. We're going to even let that run a little bit. So I'm going to let that run just a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead right away and I'm going to mist that, or I'm going to use my heating tool to heat that up. Okay, so for right now, my you can see that it's really majorly blurred, and I want to add a little bit more definition to that, but it is totally in the space I wanted, so I was able to erase the line that I had across. And I know you can see these indentations and a little bit of warping, but I'm going to go ahead and I'll iron my paper before I go ahead and do any stamping so it can be as flat as possible. So the first thing I'm going to do is go back and do some of the, I can still see a little spot I need to erase. Once this is dry, it's not a problem to erase. I would wait till it's really dry because you could take your top layer of paper away if it's wet. So that usually works if you can, it works that way if you wait for it to dry. So we're going to go back and do what we did to start, and I'm starting with the spun sugar. And I'm just going to add, there's nothing on here right now with water. So these are going to show up a little bit differently than before. But again, I can always add a little bit of water if I want to soften it. So I think you can still get a little bit of that definition of the hearts as I'm stamping. That one could have gone a little bit. And what's nice about this is it doesn't have to be perfect. But I am not going to be using the worn lipstick this time around because I've got that color in the background the way I want it. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and test that again to see if I have enough of the hearts so that I can see. I can say I want a little bit more right there. I think that's going to work. Let's see. Yep, I think I might put a little bit more. So that's how you do it. You just, there's nothing that's like, okay, I have to do it exactly this way. It's just really kind of random in how you stamp it on. And you just want to have the background of it so that it looks, so you can see that it works for the background of the tree. So I'm going to go ahead and get my paper ironed a little bit, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've got this ironed, and my next step is to get it wet again. Probably have to iron it again, but I needed it to be a little bit more straight so I could do some more stamping. I'm going to be using the Frayed dictionary very, very lightly in the background to give me some texture. I don't want to lose it too much into the pink, so I'm going to see what it is I can do very lightly. I'm going to mist it first, but I'm going to put the ink, I'm going to use Frayed Burlap all over the stamp. And again, I don't want it to be like a perfect, and actually, you know what, I think I'm going to actually spray, well, I'm going to do both. I'm going to spray this, mist it lightly, and then I'm going to mist the stamp as well, because like I said, I just want a little touch of this on here. Up, and I got more than what I wanted, but that's okay, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. I'm going to do this again really quick because I'm going to spray it to try to get some of that off. And then I'm going to probably have to add more pink. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and spray that a little bit. I want to get some of that ink off of there. Not as much as the pink, but I do want to get some of that. And I think I am going to add more of the pink in the background, but I'm still going to try to get that a little saturated. But it's telling me how much I need to go ahead and it's pretty interesting. This is just a heavy duty cardstock. It is not a water color paper. But I am going to come back in there while it's still wet with the, with my hearts, because I think I can go on top of that without a problem. And I think if I was to do this again, I would totally start with the Fairy Hugs dictionary in the background. And then I would add, and I would use a much lighter, I believe I use a much lighter ink. But this is all going to work. We're going to make this work. I always like changing things out based upon what we're doing. Let's go ahead and do that. And again, I'm gonna ink that up because I don't want those as defined, but I want the color. All right. That should do it. That should give me what I'm looking for because that is on top of what we just did. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and iron that up and we'll get stamping. Okay, so I'm all set up to do the stamping. I'm going to be putting, I'm going to be using Acorn instead of Nocturne for this stamp. The top of it has a lot of greenery, but I know I can probably come back in with a colored pencil and color some of those. If I want to, I might just keep it brown because I really like how all this color is playing together. And this Acorn isn't a really, I don't think this one's really dark. I know there's one. Yeah, I think this is the one that's not as dark. Pine Cone and Fallen Leaves is a little bit darker, almost looks black. Yeah, this has more of a brown cast to it. And the reason you're seeing that is because it's true. I used Distress Oxide. If I would have used the ink, it would not have as much of an issue stamping. I don't think it's wet though, because I did iron it, but it does affect your stamping a little bit. Get a little bit more of that on. Okay. I think that's good. It's going to be good. Plus I can always color that in with a little bit of colored pencil. So I'm really liking the way that looks. And then I'm going to have to go ahead and then get Misty, our little dancer down here. And I think, I'm trying to think of how I know that I'm probably going to add a little bit of color to her, but not a lot. So I'm trying to think if I want to do the brown again, but I think I'm going to go with the black. Oops. I think she fits perfectly underneath the tree. Trying to make sure I've got that. There we go. That's better. Okay. All right, she fits really beautifully right there. So my next thing is I'm still contemplating about the sentiment because I know I just want that little piece in there. I don't want the whole thing, and I'd have to mask it off. So mask it off, or I would have to cut it and put it in there as a separate piece. But I think I like the background in there. So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to, I think, use my washi tape again this time because I think that will work. This washi tape is not the best in the world. This falls apart a lot. So I know that I want it there. And I'm pretty sure I can get the whole thing in there. It's just going to have to be really particular. So I'm going to hold that on there just like that. Put that where I want it. And that should work. Okay, then I gotta do the bottom piece. Although the Dance Wildly would work good too if I wanted to put that down here. This might be one of those stamps that I am going to buy a second one of and cut it apart so I have all of these little, because you can do that. I'll make sure I got that held right. Okay. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get that all set up and then we'll go ahead and stamp that. Okay, looking at the stamp, I don't see how that would really cut apart really well. There's a lot of letters that are hanging down into the other line. So I don't think it's going to work that way, but we're going to see if hopefully I'm not going to be, I think it looks like I'm going to be okay by just doing the taping this way. All right, it's stamped really great on my washi tape, but because it's raised a little bit, it has missed underneath. So we're gonna push a little bit harder there. There we go. So you have to be really careful when you take this off. There's a couple little spots that I can probably fix because the ink will not stay on that washi tape. It'll just bleed and get onto something else. But that works. We can make that work. But I don't think I'm going to use the Dance Wildly down here at all. So I'm really happy with that and how that turned out. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to see what else we're going to add to it. Okay, so I have my card all finished actually and colored in, and I thought I'd go ahead and show you. I just used colored pencils for this and just colored in the leaves and the little bit of flowers hanging from the tree, and I also colored in the fairy ballerina, and I added a little bit of grass. So that's our card. I hope that inspired you a little bit to get some fun things done. Thanks so much for stopping by, and just a reminder, I will have the information in the description below.